we got to talk about what's happening with Warzone 2. Are there any hopes you have in particular for Warzone 2?
Yeah, so I actually have kind of an unpopular opinion that I see like everybody tweeting out about it and stuff like that. My unpopular opinion is that I hope they never add a ranked mode in this game.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Bot Lobby Podcast. I'm Gojj. I've got Katie with me as per usual. We're excited to be here. And as per usual as well, we have another special guest. And this one, you're going to know, you're going to love him. JoeWo himself, the Movement King. He's got a ton of different names, but one of the things that we're bringing him on for today is obviously to talk a little bit about him, talk about his story, and also talk about the tournament scene. There was this brand new update that just came through Warzone yesterday, and we even delayed the podcast slightly to make sure we got a chance to talk about it. So he's going to give us his insight and also a little bit of insight into his opinion on the tournament competitive scene. So Katie, before we bring Joe on, any words for Joe? Any words for our audience before we bring him on? To a little intro for Joe himself?
Yeah, super excited about this. I have been able to cast JoeWo, I think, more times than I can count, from Baka Bros, the Wonderland, to all the online tournaments, and getting to cast his own tournaments, obviously Battle of the Crown 1 and 2. So really excited to have him on today to talk with us. And also, since we haven't had an opportunity to experience the new Warzone update, and he, I know, has been grinding it all yesterday, putting out content, I'm really excited to get kind of his opinions on what's been going on.
Totally agree. Well, without further ado, let's bring him on. Joe, the man, the myth, the legend.
Hello. What is going on, guys?
Brother.
First and foremost, thank you guys. That was probably the best introduction I've gotten in a very long time. That, like, I may just clip that and just play that every morning, like while I'm brushing my teeth, just put that on, like, then I'm set.
Well, I like that. That's like the hype brush teeth. Yeah, I'm down with it.
Look,
I'm telling you.
This is the thing. We can sit here, you know, I've got the Warzone earnings. I could go through your whole list of all the accolades that you have, but I think it won't even do it justice, because what we're excited to do is talk with you today about the current state of Warzone. I mean, you are on the ground. You're running around like crazy. You're running 10+ hour streams. You're streaming every single day. You're competing every single day. So you have like the most insight, as, you know, do most of these high level competitors. And Katie and I we want to just jump straight into the action with you and talk about the update, because that's on the forefront of most everybody's minds. You played it all day yesterday. You were playing it this morning right before we hopped on the pod. So let's start. Number one, just give me your general impressions of the new update and what Raven Software is trying to do.
So first and foremost, I honestly love it. I think that definitely they are trying to make sure that the casual player is still happy, but also trying to add that skill gap that I think we have lacked for a very long time. And recently, I think that they have definitely been paying attention to Twitter and some feedback, and I think that they're definitely doing a great job. And I'm very excited to see kind of with this feedback what they do in the next game. But especially right now, I think they made a ton of really good changes. Obviously, there's some bugs and things like that, because obviously if they change it, guns or perks or add anything in the game, there's going to obviously be bugs, which happens. But I think so far so good. I mean, it's been a absolute blast.
So I got to ask then, I know that there was a stim nerf. They said it was unintended that you would continue to regen health when you were getting shot after using a stim. And then I saw your tweet an hour ago saying stims are back. So can you explain what exactly was it like when that adjustment came in? And is it a full revert or only a partial revert?
Yeah, so yesterday when the update first dropped, they actually nerfed stims like very hard, where, as you know, if you stim, you could literally just get like an instant speed boost, break somebody's camera, regen. They were like the best tactical in my opinion. And now I sent them a thing and I was like, hey, was this supposed to be like this? Because I didn't see that in the patch notes. And yesterday I found out, don't want to leak my source, but I found out yesterday that actually it wasn't supposed to be like that. They actually fixed it today to then be a 40% movement decrease speed, where I definitely think is fair, because if you're on console or just not the best player, if you're facing a good player that stims and slides past you, that is going to be very hard to track, like basically impossible. And I think that definitely the stim nerf was needed, not as much as yesterday, because obviously then the stims were pointless to use. But now that they have it back, I think that it's definitely a lot better, but not like awful.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to kind of get through the big chunks of this information because the update was fairly massive. I mean, I think
Yeah.
most people are saying it was one of the biggest updates that Warzone has seen, aside from, of course, a brand new map, right? A lot changed in Caldera with our underground railway system, as well as a few new perks. One of those, of course, is Serpentine. And I think this will be a big point of conversation for the competitive scene as well, right? Like whether it's used in 2v2s or not is fine, but in customs in particular, it's going to be a big point of contention. What's your current thoughts on Serpentine?
So I tried actually Serpentine all day yesterday, and I think I played for around 12 and a half hours. And to be honest, obviously one day you can't tell exactly, but me personally, I felt like Serpentine wasn't as good as it sounded. So it said that you had, I believe, a 20% decrease in damage from your enemies if you're sprinting. And I was using it, and there was never a time that I feel like Serpentine saved me. And while I was shooting at people that I knew were running it, I felt like there wasn't a time that I felt like they should have died. So I actually switched from that because I just didn't feel like Serpentine, even though it sounded very, very good, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, and like super, super broken. Because from the patch notes, I was like, this is going to be insane. If you're running, like you are going to be like Thanos on the map, like the unkillable. But I actually ran it for 12 and a half hours yesterday and felt like it really wasn't that good. I think that I saw, I think it was Jay God tweeted that basically that perk is to save you from being headshot sniped while you're like running across like a field or something like that, which makes sense. But for the more like just like normal play, I feel like it didn't make a big difference.
So it's not worth it over the other perk one options that are available.
Yeah, so far I don't think so.
Yeah, it's it's funny. I want to hop in, Katie, because I was kind of taking a look at the timeline, and most people were saying the exact same thing you were, Joe, right? Like one of the other points that I saw from a guy named Maverick, who I really respect his opinions on some things, he was doing some testing, and it looked like the damage reduction only comes through with your actual health, not armor, which would make a lot of sense and means it would be much more of a minimal change and would prevent that headshot snipe. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but just things that I was seeing on the timeline. So curious to see, of course, how those different perks and different map changes and things will go into the competitive scene. But go ahead, Katie.
All right. I want to talk about some of the stuff. I know Unrational was tweeting about it, some of the things that he thought were L's, some of the things that he thought were dubs so far in this update. But what has your experience been with a lot of these lootable things that have been added in, whether it is the lootable loadout drop marker or the lootable speed boost, etc.? What has that been like? Do you think some things are maybe too frequent in their drop rates, or has it felt fairly even keel in kind of how the pace of a map plays out?
Yeah, I definitely think there's good things they've added and bad. Competitive wise and customs, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what we decide on things that we ban and stuff, because when you are like grabbing new guns or chests or things like that, like you can't not grab certain things like unless you're like extremely careful. There's no way to not grab like a speed boost or things like that like is going to be coming out of a chest like instantly and like on top of you. So it's going to be very, very hard competitive wise to kind of see like what we do with that. But pubs wise, I mean, the cons that I see was yesterday, I hope they kind of change that a little bit, is you found self-res a lot. And
really?
I do know that they changed, and that they changed it and made self-reses more in crates, but I feel like every team you fought, a lot of the players had self-res, and I feel like if teams, the slower players, loot a lot, that the entire team could have self-res, because I was finding them left and right. The perks were good. The like speed boost was definitely cool, but I think that the biggest downside for me was that you were finding self-reses all the time, and I just think that adds kind of like a weird factor in the game, that the teams that you're fighting will most likely always have self, and it's just kind of
well, that makes sense, because you can assume right after a fire sale, which are fairly frequent, you can know most of the teams you're going to engage, assume that they have those selfies. But now, I mean, Gojj, I agree with that, right? It's going to be a little bit of an awkward pacing issue to know, okay, there hasn't been a fire sale. Maybe it's toward the beginning or middle of the map, so you can assume maybe people don't have it, and you go into fights and you get those downs. Maybe you're trying to do what we know JoeWo does best and do those 1v multiple situations, and suddenly someone's popping up behind you that you didn't realize. But I wonder, there's so much else here, but what else has stood out to you?
Yeah, no, I mean the big point of contention I saw on the timeline, Joe, was that 120 player change in the main lobby. And yes, you have a lot more people coming back into the lobby theoretically because of the gulag tokens as well as the redeploy tokens. Based on your experience yesterday, before we hop in and start having a conversation around Rebirth, from the Caldera side, what do you think about the player reduction? Was it too much? Maybe is there a middle ground? I mean, just general impressions.
Yeah, I definitely think that it seemed like it was definitely a large change, but I didn't really feel it a ton yesterday. Now, again, the first day I feel like can always play weird with like since they changed it, I feel like those first couple days always played kind of strange, but overall, I really didn't feel like I noticed less players. But like I said, I definitely noticed more teams of four with the self. And also the late game had a lot more people in it. I don't know if it was just that type of day or how certain people were playing, but it seemed like those zones like 4 and 5, there was a lot more players left.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and that was, I know, the main point of contention over in Caldera, and then the other main point of contention was the Rebirth health change. It's hotly debated. Like, I'll see some people be like, I love this so much if you're bad, if you think this is a bad change. And then some people that I know are very good at the game were like, this is a terrible change because of squads and hand holding. So general impressions, I know you were playing Rebirth this morning of some of the Rebirth changes, and I know you also have that new I think it's the jammer that comes up during the game. So give me a little bit of insight on Rebirth.
So with that change, me personally, I absolutely love it. I think it's a very, very good change. I heard a lot of times in like the guys that I killed or like my like random teammates, they were like, my gun like doing no damn, they may not know or like read the patch notes, but like a lot of people felt like they should have downed someone or knocked somebody. But I definitely think that it adds that extra skill gap that like you have to hit your shots. Like there's like no more of like the just broken guns that kill instantly. And I think that definitely adds a good thing. But the bad thing about it is with more health, I feel like definitely a lot of more people, teams will play slower. But I feel like that's been like that for the past couple months, is that with a lot of people moving over from Caldera to Rebirth, a lot of teams play it like Caldera and will like post up inside of a building, like Claymore's down. And like, I'm like, you guys know this is like Rebirth research. Like you get to come back. Like we know, like, and it feels like a lot of people just play it like very, very just kind of nervous and scared. When I'm like, this is the time to get better. Like this is the time to practice your centering, like your gunfights. And I always preach that, like, if you don't feel good in Caldera, like go and just like squad up, play like squad fill and split and just go and you could practice on for like your centering, your shots, you're just preparing for gunfights, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of times just seems a little bit more campy, but overall the change, I think the health change is amazing.
I mean, I think that's something they had mentioned that as well previously of that TTK, that creep that they didn't anticipate in how fast TTK was getting. And they look like they've really been taking very intense strides to rein that back. And I mean, when you're not instantly getting blown up, I think it makes it a better game experience for everyone because you get a chance to have that counter player where you might not have had it otherwise. Joe, talk to me about the guns. I saw you were also putting out a clip about the Arma. I'm not going to try and pronounce the rest of the words. I don't know how you say it. I know a lot of people have been running STGs. So how has it shifted? Do you like it? What are your favorite guns right now?
So my favorite guns are now probably, well, prior to this, I loved the XM4 and that was my baby. But they hit it with a nerf again. So now the STG, I feel like, is like the best primary, hands down, like not even close. I tried the bar some. The bar felt like a solid primary, but the only thing I'm a little bit nervous about is I didn't get to try all of the primaries yet, but it definitely seems like the STG is clearly like the best gun, hands down. And I feel like it could go back to that point where there's like a certain primary or two that like everybody uses. Like one, it's a beam from long range. Like as long as you can think about, like you can shoot it that far. And it kills very fast, and it's, like I said, easy to use. And I feel like anybody will rock that gun, and it gets to the point where if that's the best, like everyone will rock that gun. So primary wise, kind of scares me. Sub wise, I tried a lot of subs. Like you said, that one is definitely my favorite, but it seems like sub-wise, it's pretty open at the moment where you can use a lot of subs and not feel like there's a clear best one, which I think is great.
Sure. Yeah. The more opportunities to make decisions on weapons you want to use based on the way you play or the different ranges you're covering, especially when you get to the competitive scene where you can start actually having conversations with your teammate of like, hey, I need to run this style of weapon. You need to run this style of weapon. That becomes a lot more interesting. So I'll be curious to see what the competitive scene does. Let's kind of hop over. I appreciate all the insight on this new update. And I know all of our audio and video listeners are either you're, just listening to this as it releases and this is really pertinent to you, or you're looking back and saying, okay, interesting. Like this is, the past. So what does the future hold now, right? Do people still feel the same way as Joe? An interesting conversation point. But let's hop to the tournament scene. Let's talk to the competitive scene because Joe, Katie and I obviously got a chance to cast the entirety of the Battle for the Crown 2 series, which was just a blast and a pleasure.
That's so much fun.
And we appreciate, of course, all of your gas and input that came in from the event. But even before that, I want to back up a little bit about the history of Joe and really LoafWo in tournaments, right? Let's go ahead and jump in with this conversation around where did you find Breadman first? Bread was coming up through the tournament scene. He's coming up through just the streamer scene in general. You guys ended up linking up and you've podiumed in a number of events, right? Just on Caldera, you've taken home almost $20,000 at this point. And a very impressive run recently with Breadman. And for those at home that don't know Breadman as much, or you don't know their combo, one of the cool things that I've been able to see from Joe and Bread from the behind the scenes perspective is like, hey, I've been casting Warzone forever, and they were both players that came in and were a third or a duo with some other people, finally kind of found each other. We're running tournaments here and there. I almost say, like, Joe, this is what I usually say on broadcast. It's like you were running like the big ones here and there. That was kind of what you were doing, but you were so really focused on your content and your stream because you've got a great community and your stream has been popping off recently and you've been focusing on YouTube. And then all of a sudden, like Caldera drops, you and Bread were like, hey, we're just going to buckle down and go. You start running some of the smaller events. You start putting in a ton of time together, and it has paid off. Like, you are some of the best players in the game. You're a very, very talented duo, and oftentimes will find yourself at the podium. So give me a little bit of background about Breadman and you.
Yeah, so we started playing, I believe, honestly, at the beginning of Caldera. I don't think I played with Breadman in Verdansk that I know of. And I think that I saw him playing, I think he played some, I was trying to think of who was his past duos or teammates in the past, but we played pubs before, like the vibes like were there. And I feel like that's definitely like one of the most important things for a team is like, it is like the vibes. If you don't have good vibes as a team of like a trio, duo, like quads, like you guys will lose. Like, I don't care how good like certain like a team is, but if like the vibes are terrible, you guys are going to play terrible. So like we like our vibes instantly just clicked, and like we like knew that like we could be like a great team. And I think that I definitely see a lot of teams kind of do not the blaming thing, but they kind of like to blame certain things on like, well, if Brett did that, like we could have won, or like I could have won that, or like, and like we never had that like thing of being like, yo, like you should have like that was so dumb, like and say like, yo, like maybe we could try this, and like talk and like check like VODs and clips, and like we talk and say like, hey, we should try this or try to like land here, and not pull that like blame game of thing. And like we grew and like learned a ton, tournament after tournament after tournament, and then we just started just frying.
I love that you just mentioned that you guys actually look at VODs, because that's a huge question I've had for a really long time, because I know I've seen debates that happen on Twitter of, do you watch VODs, do you not watch VODs, how can you bitch about getting better if you're not watching your VODs?
Literally.
So is that a widespread thing? Do a lot of people actually go back and watch VODs and try and improve, or are people just kind of like YOLO each game and hope it goes well?
I feel like some people YOLO each game. I do know that some people definitely watch VODs. I feel like some don't, but we definitely do. It's so important. Like, even though, because I've definitely seen a lot of people say like, dude, like it's a 2v2, like random things can happen, but there's plays that I make that I'm like, that I think at the time is smart. And I will like watch the clip back or like the VOD back and be like, Brad, this was so dumb. Like, why did I do this? And then learn the next time, like I shouldn't land here and I think that's so important because at the time it seems like that was the right play and can say like, well, it's just random, like that's so annoying, like, or like it's so random. But then later seeing the cutback be like, oh no, it actually wasn't random, like at all. Like that was a bad play on my part. And I think that making sure that you're checking back like on your games, your clips is like super important.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. We always talk about it on broadcasts about like repetitions. I mean, usually it's in reference to the gulag, right? I always have this comparison about like the NBA or just basketball in general. I know you're a basketball guy, about how the gulag is in pubs at the very least is kind of like your free throw, right? It's repetitions. You're going to have a high % win rate. You're going to miss one every once in a while. In those high pressure moments, we see the highest level competitor miss one occasionally and lose the gulag. But just in general too, like esports, sports, traditional sports or otherwise, like everything comes down to repetitions because you want your muscle memory to be what can I do in this circumstance, and in Warzone.
Absolutely.
There's so much RNG, yes, but that also means there's a ton of different circumstances you'll find yourself in, and if you've been there before, right, and you know what you can do,
that all the time.
Boom,
yep,
you're there. That's really interesting from your perspective.
That's not,
go ahead.
That is literally like a point I literally preach all the time. Is like people always ask like, how can they in pubs or in anyway, the best way to improve is you put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And then if you later, when those things happen, you've done it so many times that it's just normal. Because I see so many times that if there's a player in a 1v2 or 1v3, they just make the dumbest play and just fold, but also they folded because they've never practiced 1v2ing, 1v3, 1v4ing. So they fold because they are not in that situation. Even if those times you get smoked a million times over and over and over, I guarantee that you're improving. And then later you can actually 1v4 those teams, or if you're playing in a customs or things like that, that repetition is so important, or else later you'll just fold.
I mean, I think to that point, right, and you hear it in death comms all the time. It's so easy to assign blame to something that's not yourself, right? It was everything else. It was the RNG, or it was unlucky timing, or whatever it might be, or maybe your bullets magically missed. But I love that you say that, because I think far too often people don't take the time to understand that sometimes unlucky things do happen, but a lot of the time you could have done something in your control that was better in that situation to maybe change the outcome. But Gojj, do we want to start having a chit chat about kind of how JoeWo's tournaments came about?
Yeah.
What inspired that? And of course, battle for the crown 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, that's a great next point. I think, Joe, I appreciate you talking about Bread. I was thinking back too before we hop on, and I believe it was Bread and Iceman Isaac that were playing together quite a bit. And then if I remember correctly, I think it was like, hey, you and Ice were playing, and then you, Ice, and Bread started playing, and then you and Bread kind of became this competitive duo. But it's been fun to watch that storyline kind of unfold for a while, and definitely going to continue to call you LoafWo going forward, because
I love that. I literally love that.
Permission for calling you LoafWo, because he turns those out during broadcasts.
Oh no, I love that. I literally love that.
When you have a duo pair that plays together all the time, you have to combine their names at some point to just make it easier, because we're all in the broadcast. I can't say Joe and Bread every single time. It's too many syllables. Just LoafWo. It's easy.
LoafWo is just simple. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I love that.
Well, hey, let's talk about Battle for the Crown 1 and 2, but 2 in particular, because we just got through that series. It was a 3 tournament series for those that don't know, and it was a really fun format. We've played hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands now, of tournaments throughout the life cycle of Warzone, and 2v2s we talked about being one of your favorite tournament formats. You get the pub slay, you get to have a lot of fun, and I really do like the best of 5 format that we went with as well, right? Because, and I'll let you talk about that, why you did try to push for that in terms of format, but give me a little bit of insight on the backdrop and the buildup of this Battle for the Crown 2, and why you elected to go with this kind of fun, unique 3-day format.
Yeah. Of course, first and foremost, if whoever is out there, if you guys plan on doing any tournament and you don't have Katie or Gojj casters, the freaking duo casters, don't know what to tell you. You are missing out. First and foremost, if you host a tournament, they're literally the best casters in the game. I say that all the time. They're incredible. But with that being said, I'm telling you, I say that literally all the time. You guys are the goats. But so for this past 3, I've definitely seen like a lot of people try kind of different like styles of tournaments and things like that. And instead of doing like the normal like 2v2, which is great, I kind of was like, how can we add a twist on it and still be competitive, but also fun? So for the first one, the ground loot only, I think that is a ton of fun. Obviously, they changed it now to kind of new stuff, but still a ton of fun. The second one was literally like, I can't even lie. I mean, my favorite tournament I've probably ever played in was reverse input, where I played on the keys, Brett on controller, Husk on controller. And honestly, a lot of people actually surprised me how talented some people were across both. And people don't get that, is if like you're good and know like the right plays, like the things to make, like it doesn't matter if you play on a joystick, like Nintendo Switch, like you're gonna be good. Like, and there was people that like, I was surprised were playing very, very good on both. And then third was just the normal standard, yeah, ton of fun.
Yeah, the reverse input day was by far Katie and I's favorite of the three, and I think just about everybody said the same, because there was this fun storyline that we got to see of like the early stages. It was like comedic, like it was like who is horrible. Like
I saw some golden clips.
At this point, they've accepted it. They know it, so we can shout them out. I mean, Oakley Boy's clip in the Gulag was maybe the funniest clip I've seen in Warzone history. Like it's up there.
And Gab's reaction, because he just died, so he's like tallying up score, like, all right, like what can we do here? And then he's like, what? Wait, what? And he's like, you're kidding me. And then Charles in the background like calming, and I was like, that was one of the best clips I've ever seen. That was hilarious.
You don't understand. We were sitting there. We had to cast that. Yeah. And how do you cast that?
Yeah. Like, there's no way.
On the ground, almost standing up. Like, what in the hell just happened?
What am I watching?
Someone did it in the 2v2 yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but someone did something similar with the Magnum in their
top break, man. The top break.
Look,
get that thing out.
For bouncing key controller, I hope that gun. I wouldn't be mad if they just take that gun out of the game forever. Like, get that thing out. I have died so many times, like where like I like maybe hit like 3 or 4 shots, and then it's like an awkward like reload, but they're running at me, so I'm trying to swing, and like, oh my god, get this gun out of the game. Like,
yeah, dude, it was rough. So it was really fun because we got to see those hilarious comedic moments, and there were plenty of others. I mean, I was talking to Wagnificent before we even started the tournament. He was like, hey, me and Corrupt, we're coming to Fry, and they showcased that in the finals. They did really well in the finals, but he was like, please tell production to not put me on screen doing reverse input. We are atrocious.
It was, but like that's the fun part too. Yeah, it's like seeing like certain players, like one slay, but like one also just be a complete cheeseburger on the map, which just made it amazing. Yeah, and like, but also like a lot of people also like fried out, which was super, super cool.
Exactly. Like we went from the comedic moments, and then as the tournament went on, it got really sweaty. And the front runners in our mind going into it was Tommy and Almond. Certainly, I'd seen Tom fry on mouse and keyboard over and over and over again. They were near the top of the list. And then a lot of people were kind of looking at Iceman Isaac as that like true hybrid player, of course, which they didn't have the best showing in the world, but not a bad one. And then the other team that we were looking at was you, because I knew that you were playing a lot of Valorant on and off stream. You comfortable on mouse and key. You look great on mouse and key. The big question mark was Bread, and we the first time we tuned over to Bread's stream when we're in that tournament, Bread's got his controller rested on his desk.
I told him no, do it. I want to go on Brock. I said I want to mark. I said you can never. I don't care if I give respect. I have no idea how people play with their controller on their desk. There is no way. I will get slammed. I was like, Brad, just put it in your lap like you have to. He's like, yeah, but if Fields coming, I'm like, don't do it, brother. Like that is, I don't know how.
Brother, he rested the controller on his desk on like a towel. It looked like a ShamWow that he's rested his hands on, like his hands are sweating, and he's got the control. Dude, it was hilarious. But he was solid. Like,
yeah.
Where did that come? Has he played controller before?
Never. Yeah. I drove to his house actually 3 or 4 days before that and dropped a scuff off to him, and like he literally like looked like I'm not even kidding, like he literally looked like a kid, like holding it like this is like like, how do I? And I'm like, oh, like, this is not gonna be. But then after like one day, like, I think the 2 days before that, we played Chalice too and went like, we were frying in wagers like the entire time. And Brett was like piecing. I was like, what the heck? But as I dropped it off, he was like holding it like he has never felt a controller. I'm like, just hold it. Like, why are you acting weird? He's like, I don't know. Like, it was so funny.
I mean, that is incredible. Like, that is such a testament to the talent level that a lot of you guys have. And I see so many people trying to prescribe, oh, well, they're not really as good as you think. No, you guys are really as good as what you put on, especially the fact that you can bring this alien device to Breadman.
I literally was looking at him like, oh, we lost.
Like what?
It was so funny, but like him holding that, I like at first was trying to be like, you're good, like you're fine, like it's not that hard. But I was looking like, oh, we lost, like, oh yeah, like we literally lost. He was literally holding it like a baby, like literally, like, what do I? I'm like, oh no, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, he pulled it out though, and you guys played very well in that event. And then of course Huskers and Noobs kind of not really they surprised most of the world. If you know their background, you're like, okay, these guys can game, but like they came out swinging.
Well, during this, I think we played them in this. I think the second round, and I knew that Husk was about to be a demon because he actually played, I think, a long ago, the like Black Ops 2s and like the Black Ops 1s and like played like Chow's for like hundreds of dollars back in those games. So like I knew like everyone was like, yeah, well, Husk is like really good at mouse and key, like, but controller, and I'm like, that man played old CODs for money. Like just like, but like old CODs, like played wagers, like, and was like frying everybody like back then. And I was like, give him like an hour and he'll be back on controller literally just fine. And I knew it. He dropped like multiple 30s against us. I'm like, that guy, like GG's only, like, well, I don't know what to say there. I don't know, GG's.
Yeah, that was the general consensus.
Know?
That was the general consensus. It was like, hey, it's Huskers. He's a mouse and key. He's like the mouse and keyboard stalwart. Like he's like one of the last remaining. Like him and Brett are like the true like mouse and keyboard players. But everybody that knows his history, man was a console demon, like just a freak. So that was super cool. It was a lot of fun. Katie and I had a blast.
Yeah, it was refreshing as well for us as casters because we hadn't experienced that. No one else had done that yet, so it was really a treat for us. But you've done all these 2v2s. You play with Breadman all the time, and I know I'm echoing back to that, but also about Battle for the Crown too. Is there any duo, whether it's endurance, resilience, they just never die, they drop bombs, is there any duo that you find particularly challenging to go up against in these tournaments?
Tommy and Almond. Every single time, I don't know what, like, they sold their soul. Like, I don't know, like, I need to just go to Tommy's house and just film what he does on his day-to-day, because something, I don't know. Like, with, like, every time, like, we play them, I'm like, yo, this will be our toughest matchup. Like, I don't care who is after this. I don't care if we're playing double Thanos. Like, we're going to beat him, but this one, we got to lock in. Because every time, I'm like, okay, Brad, like Tom's dead. Ben's coming back from Gojj. He has no money, no res. And we're like, all right, let's fry. Like, we're slaying out. He hits one chest 4K. I'm like, what? Like, what do I gotta do? He like reses, then he dies off the res, then Tom comes back, gets. I'm like, oh, they never die ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am losing it. But definitely a sense for dance. Like, I love them. Like, disgusting duo, just demons.
Yeah, we see that a lot from main broadcast. Of course, they win a lot, right? Tom, first player to reach over 400K overall, and then Almond was first to reach 100K on big map Caldera. So obviously winning a lot, and they're very talented. And it is funny to see their survivability, because you're like, there's just no chance they're coming back from this. Like,
there's no way.
They play high risk.
Gojj hears me all the time on broadcast. I'm like, well, let me check my watch. Almond's alive, has $100. It's final circle. Give it about a minute and a half and Tommy will be back, and then
somehow,
light clockwork.
Some way. I'm telling you, there's so many times that I'm like, nice, Brad, like we're frying, like we're up 7, like he has no res, like keep going, let's go. Next thing I know, like Tom's been, I see team wipe. I'm like, when did Tom even come back, bro? Like, when did he even get the res? This man just spawned in out of nowhere. Like, it's Casper the Ghost. Like, hello?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
Man, they are hard to beat. You guys have been playing great. It was a lot of fun all the way through. And Joe, one more time, just thank you for that event. The finale was a blast. We saw some great matchups back and forth. Last kind of question on Battle for the Crown 2. I know at the end of day 3, like, you know, you guys didn't have the best showing that you wanted. Was there things that now that you're looking back on the tournament saying, man, I wish we could have done this differently, or was it just a map per map thing? Because the best of 5 series is a lot of fun because with Warzone RNG, like, it kind of mitigates a little bit of that, right? Like, you have 5 maps, you got to win 3. Certainly you're going to run into some unlucky things, but what do you guys think that maybe you could have done a little bit different or done a little bit better in some of those matchups?
Yeah, so in the round 1, we actually played freaking Tom and Ben.
Yeah.
We took the first map off of them. Second map, I believe we were up by a couple kills. I was alive, and just a play that again, not something I could have really changed, but there was still a ton left, and I was trying to find cash for the res for bread, and there was actually teams fighting above me where I could have maybe fought them and killed them, got more kills and cash off of them. But instead of fighting them, which again, long term, maybe I still like get sniped there or die there either way, but maybe fighting them instead, get those kills, get that cash, get bread back. He's back. We're up by who knows. And then we take that game 2 and who knows then.
Sure.
Which again could be a thing, but I saw that back and was kind of like, I should have probably fought that anyway, because then I wrapped out of that fight and was just basically going like house to house with knowing they don't have a ton of cash anyway, and then going house to house as zone is like closing in, they're frying, trying to find money over and over and over, didn't find cash and died. So that was definitely the biggest thing there. And then in losers round, I think it was 3 or 4, Brad died in the most RNG way, which again can happen, but we saw that when Brett died, he actually had, I think, 18K on him. And before he fought the team that he died to, he could have grabbed like precision, self, and that self could have actually helped him because he died in a way. A guy actually shot an RPG from hangars up a hill and hit like up a hill, like not even like down. He shot it literally up a hill and direct impacted Brad to knock him.
Jeez.
Long term, he buys a self, who knows again, but just like the small things matter. But it's like, who knows, but it's like the odds of a guy hitting an RPG literally like across the map, I'm not even kidding, will probably never happen again.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It is what it is. But it was just like those like small things like definitely matter.
They definitely matter, and it was a treat nonetheless. And sometimes those heartbreakers, those frustrating moments, you never want to be the one experiencing them, but in a weird way, they enrich the broadcast. They allow us to tell those stories as they flow through the remainder of a tournament. And in the case of Battle for the Crown 2, through all the days of the tournament over those 3 weeks. But I know we've touched about what you've been doing with your tournaments, the Warzone updates, and we got to talk about what's happening with Warzone 2, because when I see a big update like this, I actually love that from them, because I know there's so many people working behind the scenes day and night to make sure Warzone 2 happens, and they don't have all the resources to allot to current Warzone. So when I see things like this, I think it helps keep it fresh as we chug toward Warzone 2. But I know that's going to be something you're thinking about, you're talking about, you're asking questions about. So when you look forward to what we're inevitably going to see, are there any hopes you have in particular for Warzone 2?
With Warzone 2, one of my biggest hopes is that it brings back the casual player to enjoy the game. I think that as creators, streamers, YouTubers, whatever, that we forget so much how, like, the reason why Warzone is as big as it is because of the casual player. So like bringing back that casual player to make sure that they are still enjoying the game, but also having that skill gap that we lacked for so long with like fire shotguns, origin shotguns, headshot snipes, the guns that killed in a burst, like from Verdansk, like, and that stopped a ton of players from playing also was because at that time, it was still fun to play at that time, but like looking back now, it was like we had guns that killed in 1 or 2 bursts, like literally like you insta died, like nothing you could do, you insta died, like subs, shotguns that killed instantly. And for the next game, I just really hope they find that balance to make sure the casual player is still having fun, but also that they have the skill gap that good players will thrive.
That is a great way to set this up. I know we're all thinking a lot about it as well, because it's no secret, right, that the player base has started to fall off, and then the competitive scene and the tournament scene is still kind of like stayed there. And so like the main source of content that we've seen is just events that we're kind of guising as tournaments, right? And that's what's getting all of our big streamers to play, that people still like to watch those. Everybody loves competition. We want to continue to have that, but we've got to bring back the casual player base. It's a great
Absolutely.
point. You couldn't have said it better. In speaking to that, let's have a conversation. I mean, ranked mode, thoughts, questions, comments. Is it something that is at the highest level of priority for you? I know you've played quite a bit of Apex in Valorant, and with, you know, ranked mode in those games, like that's a huge draw to those titles. So thoughts on ranked in Warzone?
Yeah, so I actually have kind of an unpopular opinion that I see like everybody tweeting out about it and stuff like that. My unpopular opinion is that I hope they never add a ranked mode in this game unless the Warzone 2 has a skill gap. When people point out games like Apex, that game has at the core level of the game, a very large skill gap and a very, very big team-based thing with players, movement, time to kill. And I think that with Warzone, at the core of Warzone, at the bottom line is like with headshot snipes, time to kill, basically like you run in the open, like you can die from anyone at any time. And in the games that actually have a true ranked mode, they have a actual skill gap at the foundation of the game that I feel like Warzone lacks. If they tried to add a skill gap, it would be very, very, I think, just campy. People would throw down bouncing betties and literally just sit in a building and wait for someone to push them. And it doesn't matter how good you are. When you run into a house of 4 people sitting in there with shotguns, like it doesn't matter how good you are, cracked you are, how good you're feeling that day, like you die. And in games that actually have a true ranked, those games have a very large skill gap and is very, very big team based. And I just hope they don't add that for Warzone, because one, I just don't think it would play well and smooth. Warzone 2, you never know, but I just think right now, absolutely, I am against ranked.
Do you think ranked is more valuable in something like Rebirth, or is that opinion as a whole in the entirety of all the modes?
With me personally, I think, I guess this like goes kind of there, but like Rebirth tournaments too, I'm not a big fan of. Also because I feel like it kind of strays away from like how it's like supposed to be played, is that like you can come back, like it's supposed to be like constant fighting, like running around, like trying different guns, like getting into engagements a lot. And I feel like with like Rebirth customs, we've seen a lot of people not play it like Rebirth and just post up and not move and sit on a tent and just wait until people are flying in over and over and over and just free kills. And I think that if they would do a ranked mode in Rebirth, I think it would be kind of tough, because I think it would kind of play the same that it is right now, of people just camping loadouts, playing a slower, and that's, I think, not how it should be played.
That's a really interesting point, and it is countercultural or whatever you want to say, but it does make a lot of sense. And I think you're right, right? Like we've become so accustomed to this Warzone, whether it was intended or not. This Warzone that is very fast paced. It is slay out. It's fly around the map, get as many kills as possible, 1v multiple situations. That's not how Apex plays at all. And if you were to try to play Warzone like Apex, or increase the skill gap in a massive way with health and things like that, you're right. You're going to see a totally different play style than what we're used to in Warzone, which won't be well received, I would believe, from the casual player. So
plus, like I see too that like, especially in like now too, and for the past 2 years, is if they would try to add a ranked mode, I think that it would just come down to like, there's times like every player, like you can look at the best players in the world and you can look at they die multiple times every day to like the corny stuff, like like gas canisters like blow up beside you, you're knocked, like things like that. Like a point, it doesn't matter how good you are, you can die to a literal 0.0001 on complete accident because they threw a stun or accidentally sniped you or shot a gas canister. There's literally like so many things that is just at the foundation of the game, just not skilled, that if they had a ranked mode, there's no clear skill gap in the really, really good players and the players that aren't that good, that can happen, and they can still get those kills on accident that you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, we've had you for a good 45 minutes, almost an hour. So we're going to have one more question for you, and then we'll call it a day. You have been nothing but a pleasure to work with and talk to about all of this stuff. Very well spoken. Really appreciate that. Last question I have for you. You've had the opportunity to play in a LAN or two at this point, and I want to talk to you about the LAN experience for Warzone. Is that something you enjoyed? Is it something you want to see a lot more of, if it's even feasible? What did you think about a potential like CDL inclusion of more LANs with Warzone show matches at majors, like those types of conversations? Where's your head at in the LAN convo?
I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. I think that in the future, I think they should definitely do something like that. On the flip side, with that being said, I think that they should, if they plan on doing LANs, that they should send out a like list of like everything that they will have at the LAN, like specs of every PC, specs of everything, because we got there and again, like not anyone's fault at all, but definitely like the change. I was like, whoa, is as we got there going back to a 24-inch 1080p, I was like, I thought we were playing on 1440. Like, oh, wait a second. Like, but like that seems like it's just like we didn't know. And hopefully in the future, if they do LANs, which would be amazing, is that they give us that list of at every LAN in the future, you will be playing on this certain specs on it. Because I will buy every single thing that they say. So when you get to that LAN, you are that's basically your exact stuff, and not being there and being like, oh, we're playing on a 24-inch monitor. Or it just was definitely different, but I think that would definitely be super cool for sure.
That's a great point. That's such a minute detail that is probably of the most importance, because the only big complaints I ever see about LANs are, oh, the specs weren't up to what I've played and I wasn't used to that, or I wasn't expecting that, and I maybe could have brought something that could have helped and I just didn't know. So communication seems so important.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Well, I know there are some LANs coming up in the future, whether it's near term or far term. Either way, excited about that as we prepare for Warzone 2. But Joe, I think that's all we've got, my man. You have been amazing. Thank you for your time and hopping on the podcast. Excited to see where Warzone 2 goes. Excited to see where you and Brad go in the tournament scene. And last thing. This is so short. This is like a one-word answer.
Absolutely.
If you had to pick right this second your third for a trios customs, who are you picking?
FIFA, new trio.
Yes.
We've been frying, baby. That's the trio right there. Like, we've been frying. Yep.
I love it.
Beef, absolutely.
I love it. Beef is a demon. We might actually have him on next week as well, so that'll be a fun convo. I'm sure he'll say the same about you guys. So no, Joe, thank you. This was a blast. I'm assuming we'll talk more in the future with some more tourneys, right? Joe's probably cooking up Battle for the Crown 3 and 4 and 5. Come on now.
I mean, we're always cooking. After stream, we're always cooking stuff up. People think I'd slide off and just sit around. We always got stuff cooking, so of course. And if those, or I want to say, when those happen, I will have the greatest casters, of course, casting that. Come on.
Yes, let's go.
I appreciate you a ton, man. Seriously, thanks for hopping on, and have a great rest of your stream.
Same, guys. Guys, seriously, thank you guys so much. A pleasure always. And I will probably talk to y'all pretty soon, hopefully.
I love that. All right, man. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, sweet. Peace.
All right. Wow.
To do it. JoeWo is such a treat to have on. Like, I can't say thank you enough. Everything you echoed. Joe, not only is like our biggest casting hype man, which I will take that all day, but to have a whole hour here with us on the Bot Lobby podcast, like just the best. Some of those answers, Gojj, when he hit me with the no on ranked, I was like, okay. When he hit me with some of those answers, like especially the LAN one about getting the specs, I was like, okay, perspective I hadn't thought about. So great, loved it.
Yeah, no, it's funny whenever I talk to Joe in DMs or Discord or whatever, like just very well spoken, class act guy. He's always that guy in tournaments that is going to give the other players the benefit of the doubt if it makes sense. Like, just really enjoy watching him play and compete, and I know his community is super supportive of him, which I love. Like, all well deserved. Excited to see where he continues to go from here. So we want to thank Joe one more time for just hopping on the pod. But I know we've got a little bit more to talk about, Katie. We're gonna finish up with our classic next segment. We've got to get a jingle for Shitter's Digest. I don't know what it's going to be. We've got to find a jingle. This is also, by the way, a great part in the show to say, hey, if you ever wanted to sponsor our podcast, this is a great spot to throw your little sponsorship in. We could talk about your whatever you've got that is maybe included here with the Warzone community. People might enjoy that because you guys have been showing us so much support and supporting us all the way through YouTube, as well as our audio version has been cooking randomly, which we really appreciate. So again, feel free to reach out if you'd like to sponsor the podcast. But no, let's finish up Shitter's Digest. There's always something, right? It has been a fairly sleepy back and forth on the timeline here and there, which is usually where we find our drama. But there was a bit of drama in the finals of the Battle for the Crown too, especially towards the end. So you want to kind of intro our topic?
Oh yeah. Okay, so winners final yesterday, you had Tommy and Almond, no surprise. Super Evan and Biffle, also no surprise. Both teams had been frying all day long. They get there, goes map after map, 1-1 going into map 3. In map 3, Super Evan and Biffle have one left alive. Tommy and Almond are full wiped. They drop money at the buy, and they help escort this player over to the buy station where he buys back his teammate. They then kill him, and the teammate dies as well. They end up tying. Now, whether that was mathematical and they thought that final kill was going to get them the win, regardless, a tie obviously still good because you don't want to miss a calculate and lose no matter what. But there were people chirping, as they do, saying that, or implying that Super Evan and Biffle dropping money and, leading the horse to water was cheating. It is not cheating in any way. Is it ratty, Gojj? 100%. Is it perfectly fine and I have no issue with it? 100%.
Yeah.
Tommy has done the same thing. Aiden has done the same thing before. So people were a little upset about that. Anyway, whatever. It ends up being a tie. We go to map 3 v2. And when we get to that point, in this scenario, you get to that, there's lead taken, you get to that map 4, and then in that map 4, the curiosity I had, Gojj, was because at this point, Super Evan and Biffle are at a 2-1 lead. After that tie, they win that map 3 and so on. You move to map 4, and there was a lot of times people say, oh my God, this was super obvious stream sniping or whatever. And sometimes, most of the time, I'm like, oh, I don't know. But there was very obviously a team following Super Evan and Biffle around and they killed them 3 separate times as a full squad unit flying at them. And I was like, that's just a little interesting. And it ends to the point where once again, the scores are tied. Almond's the last one alive. He's out in the open. He has a down and a player watches him as he thirsts and then kills him. They win by 1, goes to map 5 and so on. But it was just... There was accusations, not from the players themselves, to be clear, but there was people who were clearly very upset about this. And my eyebrow raise was, I don't always think it's a coincidence when viewers come in and bitch about things and then someone starts getting stream sniped.
Yeah,
I was
right. So no, it's a very interesting conversation point, and if you weren't in the main broadcast and you missed it, then you might not know exactly what we're talking about. But Katie did a great job of explaining it, and there's 2 pieces, there's 2 fragments to this, and what you said, Katie, is like just straight up, by the way, no questions asked, leading a horse to water, giving them free money and a buyback. That's just straight up strategy, and I tend to agree. I see how that's annoying. I see how that's frustrating, but like it's pubs and there's no rule against dropping money for a random pubs player, teabagging up and down and leading them to the buy station to buy their teammate back. You kill both of them, you tie the game. Well done, right? Like those circumstances come once every blue moon. It's a cheese strat that can work, and it worked this time around. I've seen it work. I've casted 70 events at this point or something obscene, not quite that many, but close to it actually. And like that's happened 3 times, like in the entire life cycle of the tournaments I've casted. So that's that. But then it starts stirring up this drama, and we know stream snipers are a massive part of 2v2s. you can't straight up put a rule set in if, oh, you can prove this is stream sniping, then it's a full reset. Like there's too much gray area and too many things you can't control that rule itself could actually be exploited if you think about it, right? Like you're down as a team and one of your fans comes in and tries to kill you and stream snipe you type it in the chat and then it auto calls for a reset. Like there's way too much gray area. So the only solution to the stream sniping conversation has to be stream delays, hiding your screen so people don't know when you load into the lobby.
Eventually streamer mode for everyone.
Right, eventually, hopefully, because there's two different types of stream sniping. You have, it's at the very end, for those that are wondering, it's at the very end of winners finals in the Battle for the Crown 2, which is the Twitch account, I think, was twitch.tv/JoeWo's Battle for the Crown. So you can go check that out if you'd like. We'll probably, I can try to find the clip for the description below if you're an audio listener.
I was rewatching it, so I can actually ping it here in a second while you're talking.
Oh, great. So with all of that in mind, with stream snipers, there's two different ways that you can get stream sniped. One, people are trying to load into the lobby at the exact same time as you, so they load into your game, especially if they live geographically close to where your server pings to, right? That's the first way. The way to get around that is throw a big stream delay on, cover your screen so they can't see when you're clicking the load into lobby or search for game button. All the big streamers are doing this right now. The stream delay is some people are, some people aren't. For reference, Super Evan did not have a delay on. Tommy and Almond both had a fairly sizable delay on. There's a discrepancy there, by the way. You're muted, Katie.
Not having delay on is unacceptable. Like are we sure they were no delay at all, or were just a minor delay?
From what we could see, it might have been a very minor delay, but it didn't look like there was a delay at all for a Super Evan stream. But they were covering screens.
You got to pump those delays up. I know it makes the engagement with your stream a miserable experience, but you gotta have a delay.
And I would say too, like if you look back on the tournament's life cycles in 2v2s, a lot of people haven't been using delays for a long time because they hate them. It's not a good, viewer experience, blah, blah, blah. And, but, to Super Evan's credit, like they obviously got stream sniped. He didn't say one word about it because he didn't have a stream delay on. He can't do anything about it. You just gotta have to play it out and say, sorry, it sucks for us, but we played it. So I respect the gumption there, and then came back and dropped a 60-point game. However, here's the big issue, right? The second way you get stream sniped happens much more rampantly. I die to Super Evan in game. It says Super Evan. Then I'm like, wait, is that actually Super Evan? I then load up his stream and I say, oh, Super Evan is playing right now. Oh, wait, that's my lobby. I win my gulag. I'm back in. Now I'm stream sniping, right? That one you can't do anything about until you have streamer mode plus. And that's the big question mark. And that's the big conversation point is the people that have streamer mode plus don't have to deal with that as often. Now, Biffle has streamer mode plus, but Super Evan doesn't. So if there was some stream sniping in the second way, it would be coming through Super Evan. So there is a lot that goes into the whole convo. You can only do so much with stream snipers, but it totally ruins the competitive integrity of a pub slaying tournament. But I mean, how much competitive integrity is there in a pub slaying tournament, right? So that's the overall conversation that we wanted to have, is like, it was total trash. It was total obligatory, especially towards Super Evan and Biffle. Like they were no question getting stream sniped. Everybody's dealt with it in tournaments. It's not just a them thing, but it was happening. And then the maybe gray area was, did Almond get a free kill because they were Tommy Almond stand? Not because they told them to. It's not the streamer's fault.
Yeah, to be totally clear, we are not assigning any sort of blame or question marks to players themselves. It was the way everything played out. And Gojj, I put it actually in the chat we have with JoeWo in Discord, so maybe the wrong one. But that is the timestamped link. I know I can't put it in your chat because you won't mod me until I turn your noties on Twitter. But if you could copy paste that in for people, that is the start of map 4 of the winners final, where it is 2-1 in favor of Super Evan and Biffle. And that is where that team kills Super Evan and Biffle 3 separate times. And that's how you also know, because if you've played any amount of Warzone, it is very rare that one team repeatedly kills you. Maybe once or twice, but 3 times, absolutely not. And not against players of the caliber of Super Evan and Biffle. And then, of course, you can see at the very end of that from Super Evan's POV, that sort of wonky kill that Almond gets toward the end. So regardless, that map 4 was just bizarre. But I also think that entire map is a great example of why 2v2 kill races can never be in an esports portion of Warzone. That what people want it to be. If you want Warzone to trend toward being legitimized as an esport, kill races can never be a part of that.
Yeah, it's got to be customs. Everything has to be customs, no question at all. In terms of general esports, you can have fun events, pub slang events like these 2v2s. You're going to continue to call them events. It is not a quote unquote competitive format for like generalized esports, which is why you never see any pubs players in any sort of esport ever, right? So definitely something to think about. But regardless, a fun conversation point, a not fun thing to watch on stream, but it did end up going in Super Evan and Biffle's favor as they dropped like a 65-70 kill game right after that and just absolutely stomped daddy that last map. It was insane.
It was outrageous. Like
very.
I know I just like cut you off twice. I gotta say, it is a 1 in a million when you see Tommy and Almond get fucking horked on. Like, let's be clear. Oftentimes we talk about the win condition because it's true against Tommy and Almond being their errors and capitalizing upon their errors, because it's very rare that you get teams that can outslay them in 2v2s when the whole map plays out.
Yeah.
Super Evan and Biffle, it was dominant in a lot of the maps of that winners final, and especially that map 5 was outrageous. And I'm not saying Tommy and Alma got like 5 kills and 3 kills. No, they were like high teens, low 20s, whatever it was. But Super Evan and Biffle, like, you know those Super Saiyan memes where people take those GIFs and they like make them go Super Saiyan? That was Super Evan and Biffle. And I sat there and I was like, what are we watching? And we chatted a little bit with Super Evan about it in the interview after they won the whole tournament. But it makes me want to ask you this question, Gojj.
Okay.
You do Warzone earnings. You put blood, sweat, and tears for free into making this thing a reality. Is the top earners in Caldera a vastly different landscape if Super Evan and Biffle consistently played in tournaments?
Great question. Fantastic question, because as you take a look at, let's just look at Caldera in particular. Almond has $107,000 earned. Tommy's got $89,000 earned. Noobs has $68,000 earned. Right, those are our top 3. It's TBE. I will say Super Evan 12th currently, aside from, of course, Battle for the Crown 2 that has not been added in there yet, with $26,000 earned. He earned $7,000 from that tournament, so he'll go all the way up to $33,400, which should put him right in front of Unrational, right behind Breadman, okay? So the big point, though, on the site is it also tells you events placed, all right? So Super Evan just jumped up to inside the top 10 overall earned. I'm going to use him as an example. Biffle is just about similar. Biffle is at 15. Top 10 overall earned in Warzone on Caldera with only 15 events that he's podiumed since Caldera has dropped.
That's outrageous.
Comparatively, third place Noobs with $68,000 earned has podiumed in 39 events since Caldera dropped. So well over double. So the point there, right, is that the Super Evan and Biffle don't play in that many tournaments, but when they do, they podium most often, right? Not always, but most oftentimes they do. And so when you start looking at the numbers, you start looking at how does that math check out? If all things were equal, like Super Evan is averaging more money per event that he podiums than Noobs is by a fairly sizable margin. He's still under, surprisingly, I did the math on this, he's right at or just under basically the exact same as Almond in terms of events. So Almond has placed in 45 events and has $107,000 earned. You do the math with Super Evan on 33,000 and 15 events, it's about the same, which is actually kind of insane to think about. That Almond's that consistent. But no, I think it would shift it up like fairly dramatically. I think Super Evan and Biffle would take more first, second, and third places across the board if they were playing in these small events all the time. I mean, certainly they're going to beat out most of the teams that are around in 2v2s. Like there's the best, if not the best, in their top 3 duos to grace the game right now in terms of pub slaying. And so you would see a lot of these other players, whether it's Tommy Alma, Noobs, FIFA, Juki, Scummin, Hisoka, Bread, Unrational, Z Smith, Mayapo, who are all in front of him currently without that tournament added. you might see their numbers go down. He's gone up more. Biffle's gone up more. Some of the other players that are creeping into the top 30, they're dropping down more as well. I'm looking at Inveiled. I'm looking at like Inveiled, Skullface, even Wars, Sage, like these players that are running 2v2s fairly often, like they will probably not be winning as much. They wouldn't be inside the top 30. It would certainly shake things up. They just don't play for anything less than like 25K. Fair, like reasonably too. Like if that's just, you don't want to, you've got a stream to manage, you have school to go to if you're Biffle, like there's only so much you can do.
But okay, I'm just gonna say this right now and stand by this. Almond is not at 100K in Caldera if Super Evan and Biffle played in even half the amount of tourneys that he plays in. And I don't care if you disagree with me. They are one of maybe the only a handful, maybe even 2 teams, you throw in maybe like an Aiden and Zeesman, I don't know, that can outslay Tommy and Almond. And those 2v2 kill races are really one of the big moments where they shine. So I seriously think that top 3 even might not be TBE in their entirety. That top 5 might look sort of mixed. Yeah, don't think that Almond's at 100K. So if you're some of the best duos right now, low-key, you're like, yeah, go to school. Like, you know, leave these tournaments to us, please.
To that point, like when Super Evan was running way more events, like if you add in Verdansk earnings, he's top 6. Actually, with his most recent win, he actually just jumped rated. So he's top 5 overall earned with Verdansk included, which is when he was running a ton more events. So to your point, that's actually a great point that he's right there. To be clear, for overall earnings period, Tommy's at the very top with Aiden right behind, then Almond, then Huskers, then it will be Super Evan. So fun to watch for sure. Fun to see who goes up and down the Warzone earnings, and a great question. Last thing I want to end on today, Katie, is there's some inklings, some ripples in the stratosphere that is the Twitterverse, that is the Warzone verse. There are things that are happening. And we have sources, very important, very intelligent, very secretive, very secretive sources that are telling us that a certain Warzone player that we can't mention is signing to a certain org, can I say the CDL org, a big org, maybe, I don't know if I can say CDL, whatever.
No. Well, just an org.
A org in general, a certain Warzone streamer that is well established in the community is being signed by a certain large organization sometime soon. Excited about that for multiple reasons. One, we know that it's happening, which is really exciting. 2, this could be, as people start getting signed, this could be like, oh, this person got signed? Wait, why are they getting signed? Oh, wait, Warzone 2? Do they have something coming? Is there some sort of like larger league coming? Maybe we need to sign other people that are not signed yet, right? I can't even say a name for that because then it would give away that it's not that person. But things to think about, right? And that's a lot of what ifs or whatever, but someone's getting signed could open up a conversation for more people getting signed. Keep your eyes peeled. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, next couple weeks, we are 100% confident that someone is getting signed to an org. 100% confident that it's Gojj. But we know that for a fact that is happening, and we're really excited to see as all of that comes to fruition. We also do know that there is another org actively attempting to acquire another player in the Warzone scene. So one is a for sure, one is actively chasing. We can't say more than that, but just know that the people who are yeses and the people being chased, very exciting that is happening. So we'll have to wait and see. We can't tell you anything more than that. But there's your shitters, just juicy tidbit for you guys to chew.
Oh no, that was a good one. That's a good way to end the stream as well. I'm excited to be able to talk a bit more about that later. No, hey Katie, this was a blast of an episode. We got through, I believe, all of our topics today, and we had an amazing interview and conversation with our good friend JoeWo, where he just continues to be a gem and gas us up, which we always appreciate. We always love being gassed.
What a gem, as you said, what a gem of a human. And from Bot Lobby Podcast to JoeWo, we hope you find your maiden.
That is a great way to end it, folks. This is such a fun episode. I'm Grandmaster Gojj. We're working like crazy. Katie and I are casting events. We've done the 3 Battle for the Crown tournament series. We did 3 days of PUBG Mobile. I've got more PUBG Mobile coming. I've got more Warzone events coming that I just got word of like 6 hours or 2 hours ago. Katie, by the way, I'll send you a message. We got more stuff coming. We're gonna continue to cast every title under the sun. So make sure you follow us on all the socials if you want to keep an eye on what we're doing. Grandmaster Gojj on all the Twitters. You can see Katie's socials right down there. She is Katie Bedford on YouTube and Twitch, and Worlds Bedford on Instagram and Twitter. Katie, give me your final words, and then we'll send this one away.
Hey, I just, since we've started this podcast, I knew we were going in the right direction. Everything starts somewhere, but the YouTube is growing. The views are great for it starting out. Everyone who has subscribed, thank you. If you haven't subscribed and you want to help us, please subscribe to the YouTube. Leave comments, give likes for the algorithms. It makes all the difference. And thank you to everyone who's consistently in chat. Really, it means the world to us to know that you appreciate the conversations we are having. And just onward and upward, Gojj. Happy to be here.
Onward and upward indeed. Alrighty, that'll be it for us. Twitter Space, adios. Audio listeners, adios. Have a great rest of your week. YouTube, you guys are amazing. And Twitch, of course, if you guys ever want to check us out live while we'll do this, we are streaming this live every Wednesday or Thursday, depending, at 2 p.m. Central Time, usually 3 p.m. Eastern. You do the math on the rest of the time zones. I don't really care. Twitch.tv/GrandmasterGojj. All right, that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.